And today is our video surveillance virtual open house. And we have an amazing presenter here for you that will be giving their presentation shortly. Before we have their presentation, though, I just want to go around the virtual room really quickly and introduce a couple of my colleagues. We have somewhere on your screen, but to my right, Joshua Cartier, like the diamond. He's going to be your co-host.
I'm flattered that you compare me to a diamond.
You are a diamond, Josh. We also have on the call Brian Denzel. He is the program manager. Give everybody a wave, Brian.
Morning.
Good. And we are going to start off this program. We're going to kick it off with a little presentation from HGACBuy. Please give me one moment while I set that up.
Good morning and welcome to HGACBuy's virtual open house. We know you have some very busy schedules out there, but you're here with us. I'm your host, Joshua Cartier, and this is my lovely co-host, Nicolette Greenhouse.
That's right, Josh. We're excited to share a little bit about HGACBuy and today's featured contracts with you. So let's get right into it.
Sure thing. Why don't we start with a little bit of trivia? If you know what HGACBuy stands for, drop it in the chat box below. I'll give you a hint. While our offices are located in Houston, Texas, we are a nationwide property purchasing program that have been operating for over 45 years.
That's right, Josh. As a contractor-funded program, we help thousands of local governments save millions of dollars by offering competitively bid contracts, all completely free. Going out to bid for our members not only saves them money, but a considerable amount of time.
Aha, and time is money. That's why we make the joining process very simple. We have the interlocal contract form on our website, and we'll be dropping a link to that right now. We'll also be answering that trivia question for you guys. HGACBuy, helping governments across the country buy. That's what we do, and that's our name.
Yes, it is, Josh. Another important fact about HGACBuy is that we take pride in partnering with others to make the cooperative purchasing process simpler and more beneficial. For instance, current members of Sacramento Area Council of Governments, Mid-America Regional Council, Baltimore Metropolitan Council, and the Municipal Association of South Carolina automatically become members of HGACBuy, and they do not have to complete the online ILC form. Additionally, all members of HGACBuy, regardless of how you join, can get the wonderful benefits of our collaboration with the National Cooperative Procurement Partners.
Wonderful, Nicolette. Speaking of those benefits, let's not forget that HGACBuy keeps all of our solicitation documents available for our members at their request. In addition, unlike most other cooperative purchasing programs, we ensure the compliance of all of our orders. When it comes time to be audited, that could be a lifesaver.
A lifesaver for sure, Josh. Well, that's all for us this morning. If you would like to learn more about HGACBuy or you would like to contact us, please download that contact card in the chat box below.
And as Nicolette said, that's all we have today, guys. Let's turn it over to our vendors.
All right. Well, we're going to move on straight to our vendor. So we're going to have Kevin Thompson from Netronix present to you now.
All right, let me go ahead and pull up my slides. Good morning, everybody. So excited to be on here with you. Give me just a moment. Perfect. Well, again, thank you, and appreciate you guys joining. Good morning and good afternoon if you're further out east. My name is Kevin Thompson. I'm the regional sales manager for Netronix Integration. I'm joined by Dean Scoggins, one of our account managers from Austin, Texas. Dean, if you want to give us a quick wave if anybody happens to be glancing at your screen. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I know time is a little bit limited and I want to respect your time. One brief slide just to kind of share who is Netronix Integration. We're a family owned and operated company since 2007 based out of the Bay Area. We're an industry leader in physical security integration, offering best in class technology around video surveillance, access control, visitor management, and intrusion detection. We do not do fire, but we do have competencies in all 4 of those other areas. And from a coverage perspective, we have both national and international coverage with offices across the United States, as well as the UK, Dublin, Ireland, and Bangalore, India. So that's just one quick slide to share a little bit about Netronix. What we wanted to do today is just kind of share with you our perspective and how we look at physical security And we think of it both from a historical legacy perspective, because a lot of the systems out there are still legacy in nature. And then we like to share with you how we think about security from a current and forward-looking perspective. So I just want to touch upon a couple things that we see from a historical perspective. A lot of the legacy systems out there, I think we can agree, are fairly clunky, hard to use. There's kind of a longer learning curve, especially if you have somebody new joining the organization. It's not easy to teach them some of the older systems. It can be very difficult to search for and export video. It can be very cumbersome. Many of us have lost many hours sitting in front of a legacy system, just trying to do some of the most basic things. With that in mind, a lot of legacy systems, as we see it, are very reactive, right? I think we're all accustomed to the idea of arriving at your place of business, your place of work the next morning and seeing that there was theft or that there was vandalism or something like that, or a high value asset was removed from the facility. So yes, you can very quickly look for, or somewhat quickly look for that incident, but all you can do is be notified that yes, indeed, it did occur, and here's what happened along with it. That being said, a lot of the image quality with legacy systems is certainly subpar in nature. We all kind of make fun at the nightly news when they share the bank video of the person running out of the bank, and you can't really discern the difference of who that person even is. Let alone try to actually identify them. So poor image quality has always been associated with legacy systems. And one that I never want to overlook is how easily hacked legacy systems are. It's definitely a point of vulnerability for a lot of our networks by having systems that are not locked down at the edge. And that's true for both physical security as well as video surveillance. I've actually got a quick show and tell. You guys might recognize this item right here. It's a fob, right? It's kind of a legacy fob type of a setup, and that's what some of us are still carrying. But this item right here is a $29 item that you can buy on Amazon to simply replicate these fobs. And if I were to replicate this fob, it would look exactly like the original owner. Now you have a point of access into your facility. So a lot of those legacy access control systems are easily hacked. And same could be said for our cameras as well. It's kind of a point of entry, relatively easy point of entry onto a lot of our networks is through the cameras. Many of the systems that we are installing today from a current and forward-looking perspective are very simple, very intuitive. You have mobile apps, you have easy to understand systems that are just kind of intuitive. It's easy to do searches, it's easy to export video and send across your organization or send to local law enforcement or what have you. Just very simple to learn, very smart. Also, many of our systems that we're installing today are very proactive as well, right? When I think of proactive, I think of a vehicle coming on your property late at night or a person walking around your facility that really doesn't need to be there. Instead of seeing that person was on your facility, you can be proactively notified by your system and actually be able to do something about it, right? You could do a talk down or you could notify the local authorities, but mitigate, if not remove that incident before it even happens. Much of today's systems have significantly improved image quality as well, right? Cameras have come a long way. Most of the systems that we're doing today are at least 2 megapixel, all the way up to 5 and even higher from a megapixel standpoint. In today's systems that we're installing, we understand the importance of cybersecurity and locking down your edge. So the systems that we installed, you can rest assured, are very highly encrypted, highly secure systems that are locked down at the edge and do not provide that single point of vulnerability. A quick example of an access control system that we might install would be this one right here. You'll notice that a lot of the credentials are actually stored and located on the smart device, which is a way more encrypted thing than a lot of your cards and key fobs that we've carried historically. You'll notice that she's accessing the facility through hands-free. You could also use a card. There's different ways of doing it, but the intelligence is and the security is all in the device rather than being that single point of failure. And a quick look at some video surveillance systems that we might install that are next gen in nature. Today's systems, as I mentioned, are very smart. They can identify the difference between gender, male, female. They can also look at things like articles of clothing, facial hair, things like that. And if you have someone at your site who's walking around the facility that matches the description of a person wearing a tan jacket and blue pants and has dark hair and a beard, you can quickly scan across your entire facility and find that person and remove them from the facility. Many of the systems that we're installing today have license plate recognition or LPR built into the system. So here again, proactive, you can identify if there's a person of interest that's on your property, on your facility, so that you can remove them from the premises immediately. And this last snapshot is one that talks a little bit to how proactive a system is and how smart it is. In this scenario, what we're identifying, we're noticing that people can walk up and down the sidewalk. That's a normal behavior, right? People always walking up and down the sidewalk, but all of a sudden you have an anomalous behavior where a person's trying to climb into a window or something like that. That is anomalous. That is not normal. The system knows what normal is versus abnormal or anomalous and can notify you proactively so that you can mitigate that incident. Last thing that I'll just kind of share is how can Netronix help? We take a very consultative approach. We come out to your site, we walk the facility, we understand what's important to you. Where are your high value assets? What's important? Your people, your property, everything. So we can take a consultative approach and recommend the right technology. We'll leverage a lot of your existing investment where it's possible. And that might sound like not that big of a deal, but a lot of times what you'll hear is rip and replace. Well, we look to see what you can actually leverage from your existing investment, so that we can extend that investment and maybe just drop in new technology in certain areas where it makes sense, but still leverage that existing investment. So ultimately we can recommend the right technology for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish from our preferred partners. We offer flexible procurement options, including leasing, if you need to spread out your payments over 3-5 years or beyond. So we do offer flexible procurement options as well. And we, of course, provide after point of sale best-in-class support and service, so that ultimately you have peace of mind that your investment is going to take care of you, that it's going to take care of you proactively and begin to reduce any incidents in or around your workplace, whether that's during or after work hours. I've included our contact information. Again, my name is Kevin Thompson, and Dean Scoggins' contact information is on here as well. But guys, I know your time is important. We thank you so much. And at this point, we'll open it up for Q&A.
We will indeed, because I have questions, but I'll let our members go first. As he said, we are going to open up to question and answer. If anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. You can unmute and ask, or you can put it in the chat box and I'll ask for you if you're shy. But yes, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them down at this time. I know Josh probably also has some questions, right, Josh?
You already know that's what I'm here for. Kevin, I was gonna ask, so with this video surveillance, does this take a picture of you and kind of catalog it, or I guess a way, and if you're seen again, it kind of brings up, I guess, a profile of you? Is that technology there?
That technology is there. What I would tell you is it's not on every system, but we do have, as an example, certain school districts that we work with that's very important to them, is they'll catalog that exact person and then be notified in the future proactively if someone matches that description. So that technology does exist today.
I was going to ask why for school districts in particular, but then it kind of clicked, and yeah.
I'll save you the story, but yeah, I actually think of an incident that occurred at my son's high school the other day, that a person came on property to challenge a student. Well, guess what? That person's profile and their vehicle license plate has been captured as well. So if that person were to come back on property to confront a 9th grade student, that school would be notified and they would know to go out and prevent that incident before it ever even takes place. So great question, Josh. And yeah, that technology is there today.
Okay. Is this one available on your contract now?
That is a great question. I'll need to verify that. That's a great question, Josh. I'll take that one away.
It actually depends on what system you're looking for. If it's an ML system, the ML systems are on the contract. S2 is on the contract, and it can provide the same integration. So yes, there are items that on the contract that can be used.
That's good to know.
Great. I had a question while people think about their questions. So you talked about how a normal behavior is like walking up and down a sidewalk. And you also talked about how it will kind of like profile and it can know like, okay, this person has a beard, they have a shirt, like a black shirt on and some pants or whatever. If like, say somebody keeps like the same person keeps walking up and down, like we'll just go with the school just because that was the example you used, will it like kind of think of that as like anomalous behavior because it's like, why is this person like, what does the person keep doing this, or does it differentiate like that?
So
That
it's
would
kind
be
of
it.
a, it's
Go
kind of
ahead.
it's a loitering, it's kind of loitering detection is basically what it is.
Mm.
I mean, you could set up the system to verify stuff like that. I mean, it's possible.
Exactly. You could look at loitering. I think is probably the most common example. And I think again, from an anomalous behavior standpoint, another example might be again in that example of the sidewalk. People are often walking down the sidewalk. All of a sudden, if somebody is running, right, especially if it's in the opposite direction, it's going to identify that there again, that's anomalous. We always see people walking, or directionally speaking, we always see people going this way, and all of a sudden you see a car or a person going this way. That's anomalous as well. So generally speaking, most systems that we install, there is that learning in the beginning, right? The system has to be installed and has to see exactly what's happening in a given environment. But what's surprising is how little time it actually takes to learn, especially if it has a lot to learn from. If it's an active scene, oftentimes it'll learn what is typical in I would say upwards of 2 weeks. 1 to 2 weeks is a typical learning curve, but mileage can of course vary on that depending on the scene.
Question for you, sir.
Sure, Josh. Yeah.
So I know we're talking a lot about, I guess, like the visual aspect of surveillance, but what about the auditory, I guess, side of it? Is that auditory is the correct word, I guess?
It is. I know exactly where you're going. So yes, that's something that we could talk about as well. The ability to detect things such as, I'll think of one system that can detect a lot of different audible sounds. Specifically, gunshots are detected by the camera, car alarms, glass breaks, screams, just loud anomalous sounds, right? Again, if it's typically a peaceful area in a park, let's take a park as a great example. You hear laughter, you hear children playing, you hear things that are just typical for a park, but then you hear that alarm or that glass break or that scream or what have you. And a lot of the technology that we'll use will either have the microphone on the camera, or if it doesn't, we might maybe place microphones throughout the facility to detect that. And then those sounds are then integrated into the system to notify someone proactively that this sound has occurred. So yes, audible has come a long way. Generally, we don't do a lot of systems that record conversations, only because there's privacy that is around that. But again, we do have systems that have that ability. We just don't do as many of them because of the privacy acts and things like that of recording conversations. But we just don't do as many of those systems.
Yeah, most people need to know they're being recorded audibly.
Yep.
Right, makes sense. I did want to direct a question to our membership to promote participation. I wanted to know, like, on the call, like what our members, maybe like what kind of organization where they were a part of. So like law enforcement, or maybe you're a part of a municipality, and like the most common, like maybe problem that you would face that requires video surveillance. If anybody wants to offer that up, maybe like Kevin can directly kind of answer those issues that you may have and that you're looking for. So feel free to comment or to just like unmute yourself and let us know if you're feeling up for it.
Being a local government, we've got a lot of different areas, everything from water production areas to parks to traffic intersections. Everybody's got different interests in that, as well as building security just for general purposes. So we've got actually a lot of different angles that we're looking for depending on where the cameras are. So some of the topics you've talked about certainly were of interest for us. how, is there good ways to segment who has access to those cameras? Because somebody, maybe the police department may have a different interest or different role to get in to look at those than somebody else in a different area.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Kurt. I think every system that we install has the ability to have rights, access rights, meaning that police officers can see these facilities, the person over Parks and Recs can see these. So yes, it is. They are all very much roles-based systems that allow you not only to see the cameras, but what can you do with them? That's also something that happens as well, Kurt, which is that maybe these individuals can view cameras, but they can't export, right? Sometimes you don't want people to be able to export video because who knows what their intent is. We all love to assume that everyone has the best intent, but sometimes you don't want certain people to be able to export or send video outside of the organization, right? Because that can be problematic as well. So these are all, again, very much roles-based systems as to what you can do when you're in any one of these systems. And Dean, if you want to add anything to that, feel free, but that's how I think about Kurt's question.
It's just a profile setup that you would get each individual client that wanted to view cameras. And so it's all programmable.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Of course. Can I mention one thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I was thinking about it before the call, and I noticed that one of the final thing in the topic was security fencing, I think. So video surveillance, access control, security fencing. And this is just something for everyone to think about. I'm not saying you don't need to have perimeter detection or security fencing, but what I would suggest that we see more and more often as of late is that today's, especially video surveillance systems, have the ability to actually draw a virtual beam around a facility, right? Whether it's a school property, any entity for that matter. If the camera's pointed, say, at your parking lot, and on the other side of that parking lot is maybe transients happen to go there, or there's a railroad track set or something like that. And sometimes you've had instances of people coming into your property from these areas, and you want to be notified proactively of that. You simply draw a virtual beam with your inside of your system through the cameras, and then you can be notified proactively if a person, a vehicle, whatever happens to enter your facility or your property through that beam. So it actually is a huge money savings for folks that have been looking at maybe, geez, should we put a perimeter of physical fencing or a security fencing around the facility? It actually mitigates having to do that, and it's huge cost savings that's just built into a given video system.
That is good to know.
Absolutely.
We want everyone to save money here.
Yeah.
Kevin, I had one last question for you, and
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of wondering, like, what is the state of the industry in regards to, I guess, like supply? Because every other industry is getting hit by supply constraints, but I guess with surveillance, are y'all having issues with like getting chips and components for the camera technology?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes and no. You're right. It has affected everybody and very much our industry and components and things like that. What we've done is it's kind of been a great opportunity for us to expand our partnerships, if you will. Right, we've got certain go-to-market partners that we've worked with for a long time, and while we'll continue to manage those relationships, we've found that there are instances of other technologies that are a little bit more readily available. So we still vet those technologies out to confirm that they're secure and that they're best in class technologies. But it's been an opportunity for us to find other sources of cameras and access control components and things like that that are a little bit more readily available. But ultimately, you're right. It's still a challenge. There's instances where maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe it's 6 months, and it really kind of varies. And what we found is it's just a matter of communicating and setting those expectations. But yeah, it's definitely been a strain on the industry for sure.
Thanks for answering that, Kev.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, if no one else has any other questions, then I would just like to say thank you to everyone for coming, obviously to Kevin and to Dean. Thank you so much for presenting, for Netronix, and everyone else for attending and for entertaining my shenanigans and asking questions. as I said before, this will be available on our YouTube channel. As Josh said earlier, please make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, especially LinkedIn. We post a lot on there, but we're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of the things. And please make sure if you liked this, come to our other events. We have those on our website. The rest of the until August is our virtual open house series. So come to the other, categories. And finally, please make sure to come see us at our conferences. But otherwise, that is it. Thank you everyone for coming and have a great day.